Welcome to the Creative Condition podcast with me, Ben Talon, illustrator and creativity coach, founder of the Creative Condition, artist and writer. I bring 20 years of creative industry experience and a lifelong love of creativity, a fundamental pillar of human happiness, to you through ongoing personal exploration and the shared experiences of others. You'll get a nourishing mix of creative industry professionals and people far and wide using creativity in ways that can take our learning to the next level so we can maximise our unique blend. The show has been supported from day one by Illustration X, a tremendous illustration agency representing a shining global roster of illustrators and animators over at illustrationx.com. The music for the show is by Dirty Freud, who you can listen to now on all good streaming services. And for everything else, for my coaching, resources and inspiration, head to thecreativecondition.com. It's a new instalment of the Creative Condition Creativity Diary as I take you into the insurmountables, those major challenges, doom in our lives that we feel like we can't shift, but we can factor into a fight and a cause and a challenge. We're getting into that and what else has been going on in my brain. This is the Creative Condition Diary. How are you doing, guys? My name is Ben Talon. This is the Creative Condition podcast. I hope you're well. I hope your week has been flamboyant, flourishing, exuberant. I don't know where that came from, but that's how I'm feeling today. That's what came out of my brain. I hope you're good. A big thank you to the founding sponsor of the show, Illustration X. You can see their global range of illustration and animation portfolios now. illustrationx.com. Founding sponsor. Unbridled loyalty. Wouldn't be possible without them on board. How are you all? Are you good? It's heavy out there, isn't it? That's why I wanted to talk a little bit about the insurmountables in the Creative Condition Diary. So for those of you who've been reading along, following it over at thecreativecondition.com, I would love your thoughts. Please share them. ben@bentalon.com is the optimum way to contact me. Close second is on LinkedIn. That's my most prominent social media outlet these days. Everything else, I can only apologise. I'm not very good at keeping up with messages from too many sources. I've been refining it right down recently. Must admit, I'm particularly enjoying Katie Cowan's new venture through the Creative Boom, which is the... I've gone blank on the name. It's got a bit called the Water Cooler, which is where creatives hang out in a digital environment. It's like an early internet forum. It's really nice, actually. The studio, that's the one, the studio. So Katie, much like many of us, has been questioning the value of social media, given its toxicity, the nefarious motivations of its owners, their recent behaviour. Don't need to name names, you know who I'm talking about. There's a number of them. But anything like the Facebook files in which, you know, it was revealed that they are actively trying to hook kids at earlier and earlier ages on their platforms, it leaves a sour taste in the mouth, doesn't it? And it's funny because, you know, Katie said herself that she hasn't, this is her personal social media, by the way, she's quit everything apart from LinkedIn and founded this new platform to create a quiet space away from the public nature of platforms like X and Instagram and everything else, which are not serving us like they once did. But she hasn't managed to do it yet for the Creative Boom because a lot of real estate has been created there for her platform. And I would say the same of my own practice, which is why I'm still on Instagram, because I've built followings and communities and dialogues and conversations, whether it's through my work as an author, as a creative coach, founder of the Creative Condition, or as an illustrator, an artist. It's hard to burn all that down and completely walk away. So I'm still very much on the fence. I'm kind of keeping Instagram going. I'm not committing to it in terms of algorithm or posting with a frequency that benefits me. But what I do love is this quieter conversation, this more intimate, actual, beneficial, you know, whether it's an email newsletter or a platform like the studio that Katie has created, or a more just business-to-business thing on LinkedIn. Now, I know, don't get me wrong, there's all that, you know, professional masculinity on there, and people like to take the piss out of LinkedIn, those posts about, you know, I didn't sleep for 5 weeks and here's what I learned from my business, all that bullshit. It's quite funny. But I find in our world as a creative practitioner, it's not there that much. You've got lovely people like Simon Dixon giving, co-founder of Dixon Baxi, giving so much back to the industry. There's a lot you can learn there from what people are sharing. I find it really good for connecting with people who commission me for my work. So I actually quite like LinkedIn as a platform for that reason. There's less noise there and it's more kind of professional. So I hope it stays that way. But Katie's point is that we don't own these platforms. So ultimately, you should be creating your own real estate, email newsletters and the likes that you can monitor and you can invest and put the time into, knowing that there's not going to be a switch in algorithms or a change in political allegiance that's going to scupper everything, or that you've worked hard to make. So confusing times to that end. But anyway, yeah, contact me over email. I like the old school, ben@bentalon.com. I love hearing from listeners. Get in touch. I'm happy to share that creative dialogue. That's what I do this for. That's why I'm a creativity coach and how I make connections and help people. Speaking of that, the pit stop is still on offer until the end of this month, end of March. It's going to go up slightly after that because it's a tiring process. It's very intense. My clients and I come away from the pit stop session, which usually ends up getting up towards 4 hours, really wiped out because we go through everything. We go through childhood, we go through mental health, we go through direction, passions, humour, to look at all the opportunities and the blind spots and the frustration within your creative practice. And the idea is that at the end of it, you get notes of recommendation from me, from my 15 years plus learning about creativity, about how it works in different people and the psychology and the human needs side of it all, so that you can move forward, realigned, back in tune with your magic. So if that sounds of interest, head to thecreativecondition.com/coach, fill out the form there. We'll have a chat, no obligation, 10-minute chat over Zoom. If we feel like it's a good fit, then we can go ahead and book. If not, then that's fine. I'm happy to recommend other, business coaches and creative coaches that might be a better fit. So don't worry if not, but I'd love to at least have that conversation and work with some more of you guys. So that's what's going on. Anyway, without further ado, please do consider supporting the Ukrainian Institute. They support the Ukrainian creative community this time of war, and you can do so via the ui.org.ua. Sorry, that's just ui.org.ua. There's no other on the start of it. Just my turn of phrase. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into this edition of the Creative Condition Creativity Diary. 5th of March 2025, the insurmountables. It's heavy out there. Turn on any radio or TV. Go online. The weight of the world just bears down on us in a matter of seconds. I think of those awful metal octopus things on the Matrix, swooping down to clamp onto my brain before injecting it full of grey gloom goo the moment I wake in the morning. As society finds itself at various tipping points, humanity focusing on all the wrong things, it's hard to escape the tension in the air. But we can't go around in a state of fear and hope to create. I'm doing my 4th one-to-one pit stop creativity coaching session this week, and of increasing importance each time I work with a client is the need to address their insurmountables right out of the traps. Creativity is a potent tonic for our biggest monsters. Think The Diary of Anne Frank, a powerful, haunting, sharp-edged example of the potential of an outlet for our troubles to change lives and soothe its maker. For me, a cloud of eco-anxiety followed me around for almost a year before I began intense work on my thought patterns and found my cause to take action against the climate crisis. My clients speak of rising misogyny, financial challenges, and family disharmony, among other heels in their lives. Heel is a wrestling villain. We get deep very quickly because it's essential to create a framework to face our fears and empower ourselves, returning the drive to our time making. We look at gallows humour, activism, and active, curated participation in the news instead of scrolling and passive overwhelm. We do this because while there is great value to the negative emotion spectrum in small, concentrated doses, it's unsustainable to walk around believing the world is fucked. If we do, then it is. A baseline of optimism, curiosity, and purpose is essential if we are to think differently, invite luck, and see the opportunities ahead of us. But this cannot be achieved through blanket ignorance of what's going on. That way, the evils remain facelessly present in our subconscious. I used to think activism meant big banners and aggressive protests. It can, but that's just one way. One designer client brought a stunning, powerful book of poetry she'd written to our session. This was her emotional creativity during a personal crisis, separate from her professional work, but enriching as a tool for her well-being. This might be a found texture, or defiant positivity in the face of an oppressor in the way a person dresses or carries themselves in the street. It all counts. All of this must be determined by the individual, their story, and what energises them. As a coach, it's my job to understand the psychology of managing the information overload in this too much world. See how our negativity bias is hijacked by well-funded, targeted news cycles, and make my clients aware of it. To reframe their fears and barriers in a way that hands them cause and purpose instead of alienation, futility, and nihilism. Their fears are invariably valid, but blown out of all proportion, actively damaging their creativity by cutting off flow and masking the fact that they remain powerful agents of change. This despite the deafening volume of those disgraceful, gelatinous abusers of power. But I heard it said that the empty can makes the most rattle, and I believe that. Despite the intensification of the ills of capitalism, we are in the midst of social psychology's shift towards a greater understanding of human needs. If you pay attention to what's happening amongst us at ground level, it's easy to see. Those quiet ones, you and I, may lack that volume and willingness to abandon principles. We lack those media channels. But now is our time to stand up and use our creativity for good in this fight. It starts with a smile and recognising the power of our story. 6th of March 2025. Hyperconsumerism or pure magic? This isn't an either-or conversation. The scale of fashion waste in the West is abhorrent. We know this. It's why I seldom buy new clothes. Besides, the good stuff is always in the vintage and charity shops. For the kids, it's all about vintage and repurposing when it comes to the fancy dress in our house. Today is World Book Day. My son calls out for his nightlight at 5:45 a.m, and I notice his open eye watching me despite the rest of his face ploughed into his pillow. Dad? Yeah? I'm just so excited about World Book Day. And he is. They are. Stories. That human glue. We need them on every level and have to watch out for the sneaky narratives we weave that cut us off from our creativity, the reasons we can't, won't, or shouldn't do things that are right or perpetuate damaging behaviours. If I think early, it's under a duvet with a torch, totally absorbed by the descriptions of the inside of a giant peach by Roald Dahl. A bit later it's point horror and my first serious literary chills. As an agitated teenager, suspicious of the version of success I saw offered up, it was Fight Club. I could go on, but a man listing his favourite books belongs on Goodreads. The reason I adore seeing the kids running up to school dressed as their favourite book characters is because it highlights the unifying magic of stories, how they equalise, illuminate, inspire and show us the way. The purity of kids who are not yet caught in the maturity trap that later ensnares adolescents and keeps too many adults in it to the detriment of their ability to flourish as a human in their creativity. We could all learn a thing or two from them. 7th of March 2025. The Heels. Heel, a storyline antagonist in professional wrestling. I tell people to use their own passions to frame things in a way that energises and motivates them. John Cena, the ultimate babyface, a hero or goodie in wrestling, sold his soul in the TV story. The drama and shock of it reminded me why I adore the theatre so much. I also took nerdy pleasure from a section within my creativity coaching, helping clients to identify the most dastardly heels in their creativity's ecosystem. Procrastination, perfectionism, jealousy, comparison, burnout, rejection, fear of failure, comfort, creative or financial, subservience. We've all encountered most, if not all of them, and there are myriad couplings or group dynamics amongst them at any given time. Procrastination. What are you refusing to face, running from, evading, denying? Perfectionism, the enemy of big ideas and progress. Jealousy. Pointless in a subjective realm, get inspired but don't desire. Comparison, thief of joy. Each human has an utterly unique story and lived experience, It is arguably the best asset in your creative arsenal. Burnout. We have to learn to manage our energy flow, know when something is draining, be brave enough to move towards the more nourishing use of our minds and skills. Rejection. Inevitable. Next. Fear of failure. It happens a lot. It's a good thing. What's the lesson, and how can we use it to get better? Comfort. A degree of risk is essential in the creative process. Jeopardy needn't be sharp-edged. Subservience. Question. Push back. Demand better. Keep a list of these bastards on the wall, visible, and stay alert. They'll don the brass knucks and bloody your creativity the moment your back is turned. 10th of March 2025, Looney Tunes. I never stopped finding those old Looney Tunes cartoons funny. Hysterically so. The backfires, the anatomic impossibilities, the burned faces, and the good versus mischievous seesawing in 2D. We left my granddad, around the age of 87, watching Daffy Duck on his own downstairs one Christmas holiday while we sorted a few bits around the house. I remember my dad smirking and saying to my mum, "Have you heard your dad down there? He's watching bloody cartoons." You couldn't not hear him. His laugh boomed 2 floors up and probably 3 houses along the terrace, despite the century-old thick Yorkshire stone walls. So I went downstairs because I wanted in. My granddad, always in his suit, lay on his side, tie draped over the edge of the sofa, glasses off his face next to him, in pieces, tears rolling down his cheeks. On the screen, Daffy's beak was halfway around his head. I fell apart too. Humour is personal, but an elixir in creativity's makeup. It can come in any form, and it needn't be overt. Anything from straight-up jokes, Mr. Bingo-style rude drawings and words, right through to the mood in a line drawing, piece of music, or approach to a workshop. It's a defining aspect of personality, and personality means everything. And here's another thought. It need not even be involved in the creative process. I spent 24 hours this weekend holding back a smirk or laughing in public because I tried to trick a group of fellow Fantasy Premier League players into thinking I'd played my wild card. A twice-season get out of jail, revamp your squad, free chip. In the hope it would convince them to play theirs at a time I deemed it silly to play it. It got me nowhere. I'll be bottom of the league tonight. So my brother, finding this attempted ruse and subsequent backfire utterly ludicrous, began likening me to Wile E. Coyote, the famously inept antagonist from the cartoon Roadrunner. This and thousands of other acts of immaturity take place in a private group, and some of the escapades are the most creative things I've ever made. They never see light of day, but the positive emotions, stunts, and ideas hatched in that forum grease the wheels of my creativity like little else. That's what all of this creativity coaching work is, helping humans reattune with a purer self, a sense of magic, enabling idiocy and play in ways intellectual work rarely does, but can always benefit from. It need never be seen in a portfolio or pitch, but it can elevate the way a person feels and acts so much that the dots can always be joined regardless. So, I don't hesitate to take 10 minutes to turn myself into a failed villain, scheming atop a cliff with a cart full of Acme dynamite, waiting for a protagonist to emerge. It makes me laugh, it lifts my mood, and nudges me into the headspace in which the unconscious is more accessible. We're not silly enough. Less cynical and calculated, more daft and immature. Take that as a prescription. Cheers, guys. That's the Creativity Diary for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Would love your thoughts on the issues dealt with. Always keen to hear your versions of its discussion, its debate, because creativity is contagious. So get in touch, ben@bentalon.com, or through LinkedIn if you want a reasonably speedy response. Otherwise, you risk falling into the echelons of unanswered messages on social media. So I can only apologise if that's been you in the past. But they are the best ways to get hold of me. And if you do so, I'm always happy for a chat. I love to discuss with my listeners and other people who are passionate about creativity, because that's what this is. Head to thecreativecondition.com for all my creativity resources. I've been adding some new books to the reading list recently. That glut of books over there will help you better understand creativity at large and your creativity in particular. There's also 300 plus podcasts. They are the free resources. I work with people one-to-one. I work with agencies as a creativity coach, and I would love to work with you. Of course, that's not free, but get in touch. We can work something out. It's very, very valuable. I love doing it. It's gone so well so far this year. Head to thecreativecondition.com/coach. You can see testimonials from previous clients, read how it works for individuals and for organisations. Fill out the form, we'll jump on a 10-minute no obligation call, we'll chat it through. If we're a good fit, then we can get something sorted. Long-term, short-term pit stop, up for all of it. Nice one, guys. Big thank you to the sponsor of the show, Illustration X. You can check out their global range of illustrators and animators now, as well as the news section of the website where they pull back the curtain, I should say, a little bit. So you can see the projects that have been going on with the commercial industry. They do great work for the creative industry too, protecting us against the likes of AI being a voice in that conversation and any other issues that involve all of us. So go now, illustrationx.com. Please do take a second to support the Ukrainian Institute, who are supporting the creative community in Ukraine during this horrendous time of war. ui.org.ua to check out their work. You can share it, you can commission it, and anything in between. Cheers for listening. Please do tell a friend about the show. It's the best way you can support. You can also rate, review and subscribe. That all adds up and helps validate the show for people who might be sitting on the fence in a world where we have no shortage of podcasts and audio to fill our heads with. Thanks for listening, guys. It's been a pleasure as ever. Have an awesome week. I'm going to see you after Paradiso. I'm heading out there to Mexico tomorrow for a week to do a few discussion panels. I'm doing a panel with Timothy Goodman and Jessica Heisch. I'm also doing a discussion with Owen Harvey, Tyler Schlossberg and Ivan Cash. Oh, so excited. And we're launching The Reason You're Doing It. Hector Ayuso, founder of Paradiso's biography, which I have written and illustrated. I can't wait. It's going to be exciting. I'll see you on the other side. I don't know what the next episode's going to be yet. It might be that I do something responsive to the trip. It might be that I bring you one of my guests that are coming up. There's some good ones. That's enough from me. Cheers, guys. Take care.